Right now, though, very pleased to have with us from Townhall.com, Katie Pavlich. How you doing, Katie?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thanks for coming on the program tonight.
No problem.
Today was one of those days. I mean, really, all morning long, all day long, new developments in Fast and Furious. And in fact, Katie, it's kind of unfair now just to call it Fast and Furious. I mean, I know that that's the name of the operation that really, this scandal hinges on. But now we've got Grenade Gate. We've got,
Right.
the idea that the Justice Department let a guy go after he had confessed to making IEDs for the cartels. You've got the DOJ moving all of the Fast and Furious prosecutions out of the U.S. Attorney's Office because of the fact that, the scandal has just plagued that office and has hurt their credibility. You've got accusations that the DOJ is going after more whistleblowers. I mean, it's been a crazy day.
It has been a crazy day, and it's been kind of a negative day. You have these prosecution cases moving out of the Arizona U.S. Attorney's Office from the DOJ, but in my opinion, that doesn't really do much. I mean, they're doing this to show that, we're serious about making sure that there's no conflict of interest here. And although, even Congressman Issa approved of the moving of these cases, I don't have a very good feeling about the DOJ taking these cases and moving them elsewhere, considering they haven't given us any information about this operation. And all the information that we have received has come out of the investigation through the Oversight Committee.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not very confident that we're going to get a whole lot of information coming out of shifting around where these cases are prosecuted. But, now this whole Grenade Gate thing just shows how grossly incompetent ATF is, if you needed another reason. I mean, you have a guy who openly admitted that he was providing IEDs, grenades, explosives to Mexican drug cartels, who, by the way, aren't classified as a terrorist organization, even though they've been requested by Peter King to be classified as a terrorist organization. If we need any more proof, maybe this will finally get that over the edge. But they let him go. And he was arrested in Mexico. But if you look at the Mexican judicial system and the way things are going down there, they don't have a rule of law. I highly doubt that he's going to get prosecuted there. So the whole, I think, thing that's been going on with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Arizona has been, let him just go back to Mexico and let them deal with it, because we don't want to deal with it here. We're going to cause a mess in our office, have it go to Mexico, and then have no control over it after that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at this guy, Jean-Baptiste Kingery, the suspect in the grenade case, that's pretty much what they did. I mean, he was arrested, and then the U.S. Attorney's Office decided not to charge him. They let him walk. You have ATF field agents who have complained about this, who said, what was going on? And there's even been some back and forth where sources within the U.S. Attorney's Office say, well, hang on now, this wasn't our deal. We may have let him go, but that was only because the ATF said that they wanted to try to make him an informant. And then this guy just he disappears. He goes off the grid, and the next time we learn about him, he's down in Mexico and he's been arrested. Either look, you know what? If it's ATF, it's a U.S. Attorney's Office. Either way, Katie, it's under the Department of Justice. This is a DOJ problem, and again, as you say, it appears DOJ is a mess when it comes to these prosecutions and these investigations. And again, who are they blaming? Who are the tough words reserved for? The gun owners in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, note to DOJ, you can't buy grenades at a gun shop. Just for reference, you can't really go into a gun shop specifically, we're talking about Arizona or anywhere else in the country, but specifically in Arizona, you cannot purchase grenades there. So for them to turn around and act like this is a Second Amendment, law-abiding citizen gun shop owner issue is completely ridiculous. And it's getting really desperate for them to have to reach that far when it comes to a grenade issue. I mean, come on. I mean, the whole idea of them blaming gun shops along the border for semi-automatic weapons going into Mexico may have flown if we didn't find out about Operation Fast and Furious, because you can buy them here. However, when they're making the accusation that, grenades is the fault of the Second Amendment, I mean, really? How desperate are we going to go here?
Well, I think we have not yet plumbed the depths of their desperation yet. I think we've got a way to go. As a matter of fact, the Los Angeles Times is out with a news story continuing the Obama administration narrative that the real scandal here is the fact that we don't have a permanent director of the ATF, and if we did have a permanent director, then none of this would have happened, supposedly.
Right.
David Savage reporting for the LA Times in a story just a couple hours old. Republicans refuse to confirm leader for ATF despite its troubles. And he writes, congressional Republicans have been upset at the management of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which authorized a botched sting operation near the Mexican border that put guns in the hands of drug criminals. But Republican leaders responding to complaints from gun rights lobbyists have refused to confirm a director for the Bureau since it was split from the Treasury Department 8 years ago. So again, the real scandal here, Katie, is not Fast and Furious. It's not the administration's cover-up. It's not Grenade-gate. It's not the fact that there are now allegations of similar tactics being used in Texas and Indiana. No,
Right.
the real scandal here is that gun owners who are NRA members have clout in Washington, D.C., and politicians listen to what they have to say.
No, I mean, and we've heard this from the Democrats and the Oversight Committee from the beginning, that this is Congress's fault for not appointing someone as a permanent head to the ATF. Well, maybe if they wouldn't appoint someone like Andrew Traver, for example, who made up an entire news story about using automatic weapons in the news package and saying they were semi-automatic and making up an entire lie about that. I mean, let's look at who they're nominating here. The Second Amendment, as you stated previously in tonight's show, is a right in the U.S. Constitution. This isn't some policy issue. This isn't something that can be debated. This is in the Constitution. So for them to act like, this is just some congressional issue, some ATF head issue, is ridiculous. And for them to, have the nerve to say that Congress should be appointing someone like Andrew Traver, who is completely against the Second Amendment and wants more gun control and everything, comes from Chicago.
Right.
It's ridiculous. You don't nominate and put people into those positions who are avidly against a right that is written down in the Constitution for us.
Well, yeah, absolutely right. And Dennis Hennigan is quoted in this LA Times story as saying, quote, "The bottom line is that the gun lobby will oppose any nominee who promises to be a strong and effective director of the ATF. Fast and furious is what happens when you don't have a strong director." Now, Katie, I realize the gun control groups out there are bitterly trying to cling to their disappearing relevance, but the idea that Fast and Furious wouldn't have happened if ATF had a director is absurd. They had an acting director, Ken Melson, at the time, and again, what we've learned is that Fast and Furious was run out of the U.S. Attorney's Office, not out of the ATF field office. So we did have an attorney general at the time, and it was Eric Holder. And if Dennis Hennigan seems to say, well, look, this is what happens when you don't have a strong director, what does it say about the attorney general?
Yeah, if anything, it would have been worse if there was a permanent director, such as it was Andrew Traver. But the thing is you have all these anti-gun groups. You have even the president of Mexico. You have Eric Holder, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, saying that we need to stop the gun trafficking going to Mexico. Well, if you really want to stop gun trafficking in Mexico, get rid of ATF, because they're the ones who have been trafficking guns to Mexico. Look at the people in DOJ who have been trafficking guns to Mexico and who approved the trafficking of guns to Mexico. That's how you stop trafficking, when you stop the U.S. government from doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to stop trafficking guns to Mexico, let's look at who's doing that. The U.S. government was doing it, and they did it well. And I saw a story in the Wall Street Journal today saying that 22,000 people from 2006 to 2011 till now, 43,000 people have been killed in Mexico. In the past 18 months, during the course of Operation Fast and Furious, 22,000 people, half of that, have been killed. Now, you tell me who's responsible for those people.
Yeah. No.
Well, I mean, criminals do bad things when you give them the tools they need.
Well, that's absolutely true, Katie. And the cartels are, they're still out there. They're still doing what they're doing. And again, there's been no responsibility taken by this administration to try to end this and put to rest, all of the questions we have about Fast and Furious. They just keep putting up roadblocks and impediments, in front of these congressional investigators.
Right, and they're making it look like they actually care. You know, example A would be they're moving those cases for prosecution out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Arizona. They're shuffling people around from ATF to DOJ in order to say, well, they're being punished, when really they should have lost their job in the first place. And it's going to just be a reshuffling of things until they can make things so complicated that you can no longer follow it. But luckily, there's your show, and we will continue to follow it at Townhall as well. So that's a good thing.
All right, Katie, thanks again for coming on the program. I am sure we will be talking again very soon.
No problem. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, Katie. Katie Pavlich joining us from townhall.com.